God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Finley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter. My name is Tom Catt, and I am joined by my fabulous co-host,
Toni Homeperm.
And today, we watched The Flashback.
Flashback.
Season 1, Episode 8, recorded and aired October 31st, 1972.
Wow.
What an episode.
Yes.
Very politically heavy. Before we even mention that, there is a special guest. His name is Henry, and he is played by the one and only Van Johnson.
Yes,
who was very popular during the 50s.
Yes. Yes. And we were like, wait, who is that?
Who did I say it was? I thought it was Red Skelton.
Red Skelton, yes.
And then I was like, no, that's not Red Skelton.
Not Red Skelton. No. But it was Van Johnson.
Still teeth. I think Red Skelton, teeth and red hair, so that's why I thought like Van Johnson.
Yeah. Well, you know, all those old Hollywood actors all had great teeth.
All had fantastic teeth.
I
don't know if they were caps or veneers
I'm
or
sure
if they were real.
Yeah, the studios back then, if they put you in a contract, it was like, they loved you, then the first thing they wanted to do is change everything about you. Hair color, teeth, eyes. Yeah.
Look at what they did to Joan Crawford and Judy Garland.
Oh God,
Judy Garland was on those diet pills. Mm-hmm. They removed the back four molars on Joan Crawford. They called it the buckle.
Oh, did they?
And
I didn't know that.
They did it so that it would make your face look slender. And it would give you like higher cheekbones.
I've already had my molars out, but can I take? You
can go right ahead and take more out.
I'll take right up to the incisors if it makes my face look thinner.
Oh my God!
Don't die during a podcast. Unless it gets us more views, then it's okay.
Then it's fine. Again, look what happened to Judy Garland. That one record where she choked on stage, and people were just like, people actually went to FYE and places. They're like, I would love the Judy Garland record where she almost dies on stage. Like,
collector item. My husband and I, we actually had a friend.
Yeah.
He had one of her dresses.
I would die.
Yeah, he had one of her dresses.
Which one?
I don't know which one it was. Not a very famous one, but apparently he was friends with the chauffeur, and somehow I don't know how the chauffeur got a dress.
But she was tiny.
The dress was so small because this was later in life, and she was so gaunt. This dress was like, I could maybe...
It wouldn't fit our calves.
No, probably not even our calves.
It wouldn't fit our ankles.
No, barely, Yeah, it was tiny.
So, the episode is called The Flashback, and that is exactly what it is. The episode starts, however, in 1972.
Election night.
It's election night, and it is Nixon and McGovern. Unfortunately, I don't know much of McGovern's policies or what he would have promised the American people.
I remember Nixon being president, but I really don't remember the election.
Yeah.
So
it was honestly you were probably the same age that I was when Clinton was being put into office.
In 72, I was. Let's see. I was only 8.
Yeah, same here.
Might have even that was before my birthday. I was probably only 7.
Yeah, that's right around the same age that I was with Clinton.
I was very, very, very young.
We were young at that point in time.
Yes.
Well, I wasn't even a thought of that.
No, you were nothing.
I was
You were nothing.
I was nothing.
Nothing before me.
And now I'm something. Something, I don't know what I am. But this episode does lean very heavily in politics land.
Yes.
Because as Maude and Walter are discussing the election, who should walk in the door but Arthur?
Arthur, of course.
Because the way the episode starts is Maude and Walter are going over the election, and I think Walter says they were... What state were they saying where McGovern was losing?
I don't remember, but it was like some little town. There was like
some little town in Michigan.
Four votes for Nixon and
six for Nixon, four for McGovern.
Four for McGovern. So.
And Maude is
just
bereft
with
grief.
Like, McGovern is
God, if you really do exist, get even with me.
Right.
And of course, Arthur then enters because naturally and says, "How you liking the election?" It's what was it? 4 for McGovern and 6 for America.
6 for America.
Because of course, Arthur is very Republican conservative, and Maude is a very liberal Democrat.
Yes.
And they're going over whatever it is that they're discussing. They also mentioned socialized medicine.
Yeah.
Which nowadays is now known as Medicare for All.
Yeah.
So it's like, once again, the show that aired 50 years ago.
Right.
It'll be 50 years ago next October.
Mm-hmm.
So 50 years ago was also going over socialized medicine and Medicare for All.
Yeah.
Why are we still having these conversations?
Why are we still in the same boat? Yes. America, the land where we have the best medical treatments and procedures available that most of the population
cannot afford.
Yeah, isn't that a great thing?
It's fantastic.
Yes,
really.
what a great thing that
every other country in the free world has socialized medicine, has Medicare for All, has it where you don't have to spend an arm, a leg, and a firstborn child in order to have a medical procedure.
Right.
Why are we so behind? I know why we're so behind. It's the same reason why Arthur doesn't want socialized medicine, because it will just mean cheaper. It'll just mean cheaper labor.
Right.
And doctors need to be paid too.
Right.
So it's so frustrating.
It is frustrating.
It's genuinely so frustrating. But I think that was something that Humphreys was for. Humphreys was for socialized medicine.
Probably. I don't know what his platform was.
I mean, years ago, socialism was looked at as very bad.
Yeah.
Like, if you were a socialist, you were like not annexed. You were ostracized from any and all groups.
Don't you love how people will be like, oh, we don't want to be, we don't want to live in a socialist country. Oh, but they want to get their Social Security check.
They want to get Social Security checks. They want their benefits. They want disability. They want all of these socialist programs that without them, they'd be screwed.
There was a relative of Frank's
mm-hmm.
who she was going on about how she hated liberals. She hated liberals. I'm like, well, let me think about it now. As a woman, if it wasn't for liberals, you wouldn't be able to vote. You wouldn't be able to voice an opinion about social policies. You wouldn't be getting your Social Security. You wouldn't have a 40-hour work week. There wouldn't be such a thing as overtime. I mean, all these, the reason you have all these things
is because of liberals.
Hello, yes.
It's because of socialism.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that, there'd still be child labor. Workhouses and indentured servitude.
Speaking of child labor, did you see the article of that one father who was praising and applauding his 14-year-old son, who was working in Burger King 40 hours a week? This child was working.
Why?
Praising, oh, my child is working, my child is doing this, my child is doing so well. Why? Why is a child unable to be a child? It begs the question, what is too young to work?
Well, unfortunately, the child nowadays probably does need to do that in order to pay for college.
Yeah, I guess so.
Unless they want to take out student loans that are going to be like, it's ridiculous.
I'll be as old as Tony one day and still be paying my student loans.
Probably.
It's really, really upsetting that we live in this country of plenty, and there's not plenty for the plenty.
Right.
There's just not, and
right. It's one of those cartoons where there's the very large obese person with the big bowl of food, and there's like a child that's gaunt and emaciated just staring at it. That's kind of like where
America.
America.
The working class is the tiny, emaciated, gaunt child.
Exactly.
And the fat cats are the large, obese individual who is eating out of the bowl.
Exactly.
This is, oh my God almighty. Exactly. This is such an interesting country.
But let's continue, because we could talk about that
for the whole hour. So, Arthur complains. Humphrey over Nixon, against socialist Democrats and Republicans. Mentioned Nixon's secret plan to end the war.
End the war, yes, in 6 months. Holy Toledo, does that
I remember watching this episode, and I remember getting shivers down my spine because of how similar it was to where we are right now.
Right.
It's a president who feels that there's going to be this giant secret that he's not going to tell anybody, and it's going to fix everybody's problems. And where am I? Where am I? Trump was saying, we're going to have the best Medicare in the world. Like, Trump care is going to be wonderful. He didn't tell anybody about it.
No.
We still don't know what this medicine plan was.
Still have no clue what it was
and about. I can guarantee you it was the same thing with Nixon back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. He had this secret plan that nobody was supposed to know about, and it was probably nothing. Yeah.
I mean, I don't even remember exactly when the war in Vietnam officially ended, but I mean, I don't think it was till after Ford took office.
Probably.
So now we're going
to actually look this up.
The end date,
April 30th, 1975.
75.
75.
So that's when.
So we're 3 years off from the war.
Yeah.
So it was within. I think it was within. All right, now we need to.
Was it during Carter's?
I don't think it was during Carter. It was, I think, right after Nixon resigned.
Well, that would have been Ford.
Yeah.
Ford took over.
Then that would be
Nixon.
It would be Ford.
Yeah, that I do remember. That for some reason I remember vividly because the whole
world was crazy.
The world was like Yeah.
So
that I remember.
That's what ended up happening in the Vietnam War. Ended because Ford became president.
Yes. And oh my God, Saturday Night Live when Chevy Chase would do his impression of him, falling over, and it was so funny. I mean, he didn't even like nowadays on Saturday Night Live they'll do hair and makeup and everything and mannerisms.
Before it was if you looked close enough to the president and if you looked close enough to these celebrities and you sounded enough like them, they just put you on and that was the end of it.
Yeah, but Chevy Chase, he didn't even do, he just put on a suit and they were like, and here's, President Ford, and he would just fall over and take his own, and it was hysterical.
There was actually I remember watching Toni Fields years ago, and even presently because I absolutely adore the woman. And at the time she had her leg amputated, and she was in her special. I think it's On Location with Toni Fields.
Right.
She ended up reading these thank you cards and congratulatory cards and whatnot. And I think, if I remember specifically, she says, "I'm reading this one to impress you. Don't worry if you fall down. I didn't become president."
Oh.
Gerald Ford.
That's funny. That's a hoot.
But, But, yeah, so Arthur was mentioning Nixon's secret plan, and there was a lot of back and forth between Maude and Arthur.
Yes.
Because there's always, especially in political...
Yeah, when it came to politics, they were just oil and water.
Very much so. Very much so. And we actually find out during this episode that Arthur was the one who introduced Maude and Walter.
Maude and Walter. Well, it's kind of weird, because Arthur is the neighbor who lives next door.
Yeah.
He had been friends with Walter for years, but Arthur was living next door to
Maude.
So it's just weird that, that's how it worked out. But I guess it makes sense that, he figured...
Because I'm trying to remember in other episodes of, if it's ever mentioned that Walter would become friendly with, Maude, being neighbors and whatnot. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Arthur mentioned a few times how Maude's been married several times to different partners.
Yes.
So it stands to, if you're neighbors with somebody, you're obviously going to know what your neighbor's going through. Especially during the 70s when it was the thing to do, where you would just know your neighbors.
Yes.
Nowadays, it's like,
not today.
Not today.
Not today. I already put the down payment up on the fence that I'm having enclosed my properties.
You did? Congratulations!
I did. I don't ever want to see them, hear them, know them.
Deal with them. I get it.
Closing them out.
As you should.
As
you should.
So let's get to the flashback.
Let's get to the flashback. So as Arthur exits, he ends up saying China will be in the United Nations. Just more stupid stuff from Arthur. And then we get to the flashback. And
we did almost. Is that when? Yes, we get to the flashback. And
it's after he leaves, and then Maude and Walter are going back and forth. Like, remember how we first started dating the last election?
Yes.
So they started dating in '68.
Yes.
So we flash back to 1968. And we're in Maude's house. Her hairstyle is much darker.
So is Walter's.
Walter actually had hair on his head.
Yes.
And he was wearing this very attractive blue suit with the yellow turtleneck sweater.
Yes.
It was a very attractive outfit for him. And, Maude was in her pantsuits.
Of course. That's not going to change.
That's never going to change.
Yes. But so now it's Nixon running against Humphreys.
Humphreys, yes.
I remember nothing about
you were in diapers.
I was only like 3.
You were in diapers.
I have no recollection of that. And Arthur comes back in again, and he's mad because Maude pasted a Humphreys sticker over his Nixon sticker on his car.
Oh, but even before that, Carol comes downstairs, doesn't she? Or is that after?
That's after.
It's after? Okay, then you wrote down more notes than I did.
I did.
So, Arthur, comes in a huff because that was exactly what Maude did. Maude pasted a Humphrey sticker over his Nixon bumper sticker. Mm-hmm.
And it's actually during this in '68 where Arthur brings up Nixon saying he's going to end the war.
Yeah.
In 3 years. So, it was like... Even 6 months.
Right, yes.
So it
was back in 68 that he was going to fix things, going to end the war.
End the war in 6 months. And as we know, even in the next election, it still had to be done. And it didn't even happen during his term. It wasn't until Ford took over after he resigned.
It really is unfortunate that Trump was the combination of 2 of our worst presidents. He really was just a combination of Nixon and Reagan with just a drop of, what was that? Gambino.
Yeah.
Just a drop of mobster.
Trump's presidency to me is like, it could be the epitome of it would be the music from Chicago, the song, "Give 'em the old razzle dazzle."
That's exactly.
I can't sing too much of it. We'll be demonetized.
It was the same thing with Nixon and Reagan, where they would just promise the world.
Look at what I'm doing with this hand, and don't
look what I'm doing with this hand.
The hand behind my back. Exactly.
So,
yes.
Vote Democratic Socialist.
Yes.
Vote Liberal. Anywho's'll be.
So Arthur, he leaves. And, Walter wants to get romantic.
Yes. Walter does want to get romantic. Now, here's where the episode shifts a little bit in meaning, because now we're no longer focusing on the politics of it. We're focusing on the meat and potatoes of what's going on.
The relationship.
We're focusing on the relationship. And, go ahead. You have more notes than I do.
Well, Maude says, there's a problem. Apparently, she then tells Walter that, Carol and Philip are upstairs.
That's right. Thank you for pointing that out. Carol just moved in.
She just moved in. She's just recently divorced. Or I don't know if she was divorced at that point, or
she was going through the divorce.
She was going through the divorce. So Maude has let her move in.
Come back.
So which now we know that Carol's been there for quite a long time now since she moved in '68, and present day Maude is in 72. So.
But I mean, that has become normal nowadays, where kids will come back home, whether it's because of emotional strife, whether it's because of financial hardships. Like, parents are not going to turn their kids away.
Most young adults, on Long Island can't afford their own place.
And this is in Westchester. This is in Westchester County.
Yeah.
Upstate New York.
Right.
And, I'm almost assuredly assuming that it was relatively not nearly as expensive as it is now. I do not think that it was. As a matter of fact, there was an episode that Maude bought them a house for $38,000. Where in this country can you buy a house, not an apartment, a house for $38,000?
You can't get like a storage unit for that. Actually, I saw somebody. They have those Home Depot like storage units that I think they're about $250, and somebody actually converted one into like a tiny house.
Isn't that sad?
It's sad. It was cute.
So
it was cute though.
I see a lot of these posts on Facebook where it's like, I could live in this tiny house. I could live in this. I could live in that. And I'm like, sure you can. Well, not very long.
Well, definitely not if you're a drag queen.
Jesus Christmas, no.
I could fill that place just with my wigs.
Just with the wigs. You with the wigs, me with the fabric. It's a lot. It's a lot. Being a creative in a small house is not fun. So Carol moves back home. This is in '68. She is going through a divorce, and Philip's probably only like
a baby. Probably, yeah.
So
he's only about 7 or 8 and 70.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. So Philip would have been
4,
around
either 4 or 5.
Yeah,
3 or 4. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think Philip would have actually been my age, because I remember like in '72, one of the Dr. episode, he said he was 8, and I think that's how old I was. So, whatever Philip is in the series,
you could have been Philip.
I could have been Philip.
You could have been Philip.
I could have been Philip. Yeah. So now Maude, she's grabbing Walter.
They're being amorous. They're being very romantic.
She's like, honey, if you
don't vote in this election, Humphreys is going to lose.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, Maude, your boyfriend is hugging and kissing you. Why are you still focusing on the election?
Yeah, hello.
But
she is.
She is.
Yes. And
for a woman during the 70s to be that politically invested, very rare to see on television.
Oh, God, yeah.
Very rare to see a woman so heavily politically invested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, she was the first.
Yeah.
She was the first.
I honestly do not think there was ever a woman character so politically invested as Maude.
Yeah.
Before Maude, I'm saying.
Before Maude. You would see things like where, at least in sitcoms, where take I Love Lucy, for instance, where somebody's running for, like, president of the social club and things like that. But you never saw anything that was really...
You never saw anything above that.
About real politics. So now we experience what in the Maude and Walter relationship is the very first time of Walter
telling Maude to sit.
Maude, sit.
Yeah.
And she's stunned and taken aback and does it.
And then she questions, why did I sit?
Yeah.
I sat.
Yeah.
What did I do that for? And she immediately just goes from being amorous and romantic to screaming at Walter to get out of her house.
Yeah, because she's petrified. Because she's scared. Because she realized... Because that made her realize...
She was in love with him.
And she was in love with Walter.
And again, it sort of is interesting to point out how... That's not how you tell somebody you love them.
No.
You don't yell at somebody to sit down and then that immediately triggers some type of dopamine in your brain. No. None of that.
No. But, unless you're wearing leather.
She said it, I did. Little Folsom Street East
It's happened. It's been known to happen. Tell me I'm wrong.
Little Folsom in all of us.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not saying a word.
So,
not anything that could be used against me in a court of law.
She orders Walter out.
Orders Walter immediately out of the house, and Carol races downstairs, who is in this very adorable hairdo.
Yes, very like late 60s.
Very late 60s.
Yes, very cute. I need that hair.
You do need that hair, honestly.
Hair. I will have that hair. I need it, you will. And I will have it.
That's that's right, you will. And indeed she will.
I'm like Ariana Grande. See it, want it,
buy it.
You know.
Well, you don't even have to buy it.
Make husband make it.
It's probably somewhere in the basement now.
Probably.
So Carol comes downstairs, and she is, I am so glad that this sitcom had Maude's daughter be sort of the logical center of everything.
Yes.
Because you know how in Golden Girls, Dorothy was like the logical thinker, the one who would always put things in perspective for people.
Right.
Maude was Maude. Maude was all over the place. Maude was very scatterbrained. There was even an episode where we went over Maude's manic depressive episodes.
Right.
And Carol, being Maude's daughter, definitely was her emotional crutch.
Yes.
And, seeing your mother go through, at this point, 3 husbands, and now seeing your mother now amorous with another individual, it's definitely an interesting relationship that the two of them have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really do love the relationship between Maude and Carol.
Yes. So Maude has to explain to Carol that she's upset because she's in love with Walter, and she
a career divorcee.
Yes, she's a career divorcee. She does not want to get married again. She's struck out 3 times already.
I mean, I don't know. For me, if I failed once, I might want to try again.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone like Maude who's done it 3 times, I can understand why she would be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very obvious for a woman of her years, especially during the late 60s, to not only have gone through 3 husbands, but to now potentially think of having a 4th.
Right.
That's
a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
How about you?
I've always wondered maybe it would be better if marriages were like a contract for only like a certain amount of years.
A lease on your own.
Yeah. Yes. And then after 5 years, it's like, the marriage lease is kind of, do you want to renew it? Or, do you want to trade me in for a newer model? Right? It would make things a lot simpler.
It would make things very interesting.
It's
like for those 5 years, we're significant. We're spouses, and then as soon as the 5 years over, it's like, you want to renew?
Right? Exactly.
You want to renew your marriage? In an interesting way, I could see that happening.
I mean, and then you wouldn't have to like go through the expense of divorce or anything. It would just be like,
it would just be the end of it.
Yeah.
Like the contract would stipulate that.
See, now years ago, before gay marriage, like a gay couple, we couldn't get married.
Didn't they have civil unions, or was
no?
It wasn't even civil unions.
They would have. There were times where they would have a wedding, but you weren't legally married. It meant nothing legally, but for the most part, a gay couple, you just moved in together. Yeah, you just lived together. And if
roommates, you became roommates.
If it didn't work out, you took your clothes and your gay porn collection and you left, and
that was the end of it.
That was the end of it. But now, of course,
I mean, I will say this. This is a bit of a big issue that a lot of people are pointing out. We will not have full marriage equality until people with disabilities will not lose their disabilities when marrying their significant other.
Yes, my husband knew a couple that were married and ended up getting divorced.
Yeah,
just so they could both continue to get their full disability
benefits. Yeah,
benefits. They still live together, but we're no longer legally.
It's so sad,
husband and wife.
It's so sad.
It's crazy. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. You're penalized for getting married, but then if you aren't married, there's so many things that, you could not be allowed to do.
Yeah.
Like, as far as, like, if, the few times that, like, my husband had to go to the hospital, like, I haven't had a problem. They said, "Who are you?" I'm like, I'm his husband. We're legally married. Oh, okay. And then, there's no ifs, ands, or buts that, they're not going to tell me. We did have one time before we were married where he had to go to the emergency room for something. And the doctor, he was a real jerk. He said to me, I was waiting with me, and he said, "Oh, who are you?" I said, "I'm his partner." And he said, "Well, you have to wait outside." And,
oh no.
Frank was like, his stomach was really bad. He was too bad. He didn't even realize what was going on. And when I told him about it afterwards, he said, "Oh, I didn't even realize he said that. I would have told him to, like, go to hell." But,
I just said worse.
But as it stands now, I've never had any problem with, like when he had his hernia surgery and things like that, about being,
and
in the room.
Up until I remember watching an episode of Grey's Anatomy where it was someone in the military that was having a surgical procedure done, and their partner wasn't allowed to be in the waiting room, in the recovery area. And I remember, vaguely do I remember this, but I remember that it was two men in the military, and they were a couple, and they had told him, because you're not married, you can't come into whatever. Somehow they managed to do it in the end, and I remember clear as daylight. I was watching it, and then they started kissing, and then I looked at my mother, who was grimacing at the television.
Oh.
So that was a tip for me.
Oh. Were you out at that point?
Not at all.
Oh.
I was not out in the slide. I was, like, so happy that I was seeing this out gay couple on television, but then to see my mother react that way, it was like, oh, well, I'm not saying nothing now.
Right. Oh, jeez.
So we've come over heaps and bounds since then.
Well, that's good.
But still,
but of course, as a young person, when on the one hand, a parent will say, "Oh, I love you no matter what," and all that. But then when you see something like that, you're like, "Oh, you say you love me
out of it
no matter what." But is there a but you're not you're not telling me, like, if Yeah. And the crazy thing is, like, people will, they'll let kids get a pass for, like, doing, horrible things, like, murder, and they still support the kid, and they're going to visit them in jail, but, they'll kick them out if they're gay, and disown them.
Not to take away from the episode, but on the third time that I had come out, I wrote them a letter. I wrote my family a letter, and it was very emotional. It was a very emotional letter that I wrote them. And I remember writing in it something along the fact of, sometimes I wish that you would be more grateful that I am not dealing drugs, that I am not murdering anybody, that I am not doing anything wrong to anybody else. This is all about who I am and how I present myself to the people. That letter did not go over well.
I'm sure it didn't.
But again, leaps and bounds, friends. It does get better,
but it's
sort
the
of.
Truth. It's the truth.
It does get better, sort of. So, back to the episode. So, Carol is...
she suggests that they live
together. They live together.
Right.
Which was very of the time.
Yeah.
It was very of the time. Like, marriages were, I guess, on the decline in the 70s?
Well, I think it was, coming out of that free love thing.
In the 60s, yes.
People wanting to be anti-disestablishment and not wanting to follow.
Well, this is also late 60s, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and actually, nowadays, most people I know live together before they get married.
They get married anyway.
So,
I mean, that's what a lot of people have told me, specifically. When it comes to a relationship, where it's like, sometimes it's better to live with your partner for a couple of years to find out if you really can, if you're simpatico, if you're compatible. And that does make a lot of sense.
It does.
And it saves a lot of headache and a lot of heartache.
Yeah. And a lot of expense, like I said. you're married and then decide you want to get divorced, I mean, marriage is easy.
Divorce is hard.
Divorce is hard. Divorce is complicated. Divorce is expensive.
And you don't know a person until you divorce them.
No, you don't.
Because you don't know how cutthroat or how ruthless or how money hungry or how psychotic they actually are until those papers are like presented to them.
That's right.
And also there are times even when spouses will have extraneous bank accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Where it will be like, oh, well, we're going to go through, we're divorcing now. Let's go through all of our assets. And you'll find that your partner has like squirreled away.
Or they've put like 2 and 3 mortgages on the home and you didn't know about it. I mean, it's a lot.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. Okay, so that now Maude, of course, is taken aback, at the idea of living together. That's like, she's like, we're not two kids that we can live in a VW camper, which is so like late 60s.
Yeah.
And that's when, of course, the doorbell rings and Walter has come back already.
Come home.
And he's kissing her and she's pushing him away. And
Maude is like very confused because she's like, "Oh, Walter, it's so good to see you. Get away from me! I have no idea. Why are you doing this to me?"
She loves him, but that she's petrified of being in love with him. Because when you love somebody, it's like in Moonstruck. When you love them, they can drive you crazy, and that's just what it is. When you love somebody. They have power over you.
Yeah, they do.
They have power over you.
I've been in love once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
You're
not going to break out into song now. It was a perfect moment.
It was the perfect moment for it too. Who is Sylvia?
That would have been the perfect segue.
No, So Carol ends up running upstairs, and Maude is like, "Wait, no, I need my emotional grudge right now."
Yeah.
And Carol goes, "I have to go talk to Phil a bit," and then Maude says, "And to think I had you on purpose."
Yes, I had you on purpose. How dare she?
She's made jokes like that before, like, to think I had you on purpose, and to think I had you legitimately. There was another one where it was like, and to think when she swallowed marbles, I ended up spending 3 days shuffling through her toilet to find it.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my Lord.
But again, that's the relationship between a mother and daughter.
Mother and child. So Maude still doesn't want to get married. And Arthur,
honestly,
you love me. Let's get married. Then she says, I want to live together because she's had 3 wipeouts, and Walter wants a permanent relationship.
Yeah.
And
also, they use the word immoral a lot.
Yes,
they use the word immoral, I think, to avoid saying sleeping around.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of Walter's bigger concerns. I think Walter was very concerned that if they were living together, that would mean that he wouldn't have, I guess, control over Maude.
Yeah.
And Maude can do as she pleased.
Well, actually, when you think about it in the broader aspect of this episode, showing that a couple were having relations before marriage was also something you didn't see on television. As far as all television was concerned, everyone was a virgin until they got married. And there was no hanky-panky. And here we see, an adult man and an adult woman who are having, an adult relationship.
I mean, but even back then, they wouldn't call making love... like, it would not... When they say making love, even in the 30s and 40s, making love was just making out. It wasn't having sex. Right. It wasn't making whoopee. Like, that's what they ended up calling it in the 70s, was making whoopee. Or even was it in the 60s they started using whoopee?
No, I think it was quite earlier than that.
Really?
Well, yeah, making whoopee, I think, always meant,
having sex. Naturally.
Making love, like, we see when they talk about that in the 30s and 40s, and they sang about it and all. Making love was, just being romantic.
Yeah, heavy petting. Like,
no, they didn't even mean that. They didn't,
really?
Yeah, no. When you see like this, 40s starlet in a gown and she's singing about making love, There was no heavy petting. No, excuse me. I mean, that would be, the man shows up for the date with a flower. It was,
Yeah, it does make sense.
Not that the whoopee didn't happen by any means.
Rest assured, friends, the whoopee did in fact happen.
It did happen, or else none of us would be here. But
none of us would be here is true.
But it was, but when they were, singing about it or talking about making love, it wasn't, they didn't.
Yeah.
They weren't meaning the, the dirty deed.
Not yet, at least.
It could lead to that, and
it could lead to
most likely did, but they weren't.
Yes, most assuredly.
They weren't singing about it, and of course, Maude is telling Arthur he's being like something out of the 19th century because
mid-century stuffed shirt, mid-Victorian stuffed shirt.
Something like that.
She called Walter. You said Arthur.
Oh, I said Arthur.
I know. Happens all the time.
Why did I do that?
Happens all the time. I don't know why we get those two confused.
You know what? Arthur and Walter were in and out
constantly.
This episode, so it kind of was like.
So I think Arthur also came in before. No. So Maude and Walter are having their argument where Walter is basically saying like, I do not want. I want a wife. Like, Walter, in no uncertain terms, wants to be married. He wants to be in another marriage. Maude is petrified of that.
Also very unusual, because usually in, TV movies, it's always the woman portrayed as the one who wants to get married.
Yes.
And the man doesn't.
Again, only speaks to how progressive the show was.
Right.
So Walter ends up
going out the door to yell to the neighbors.
Screaming to the neighbors, making a scene.
Yeah, something about yelling about sin or sanity.
Should we choose sin or should we choose sanity?
Yeah. And he ends up storming off.
He ends up leaving saying, I had it written down. Where the heck is it? My handwriting is atrocious.
We have to sign you up for steno classes.
That's right. We have to sign me up for some type of classes. I'm going to go out and find a girl with a 42-inch bust and an IQ of 14.
Yes.
He ends up going to the bar.
Yeah. Well, we went to commercial.
And then we come back.
We're at the present day.
It's back to present day.
So Maude, Walter, and Arthur are on the couch
watching the election. And,
yes. And they go back into another flashback about remembering those, because it was like 2 weeks went by after that for them back in 1968 where they hadn't seen each other.
Yeah, I think it was a week.
I think they said 2 weeks.
2 weeks? 2 weeks.
Because one said something about or was it Walter said he stayed alone for 2 weeks drinking.
Yes,
that was the other big thing.
The other big thing was Walter's drink. I mean,
drinking.
Walter's drinking was definitely addressed. Well, in season 2, we address Walter's drinking.
Yeah, but we see all these little crumbs.
Yes, we see
that were
the
deposited about the drinking, which nobody thought.
Nobody gave a fig about it. No one gave a fig about it. So we get back to so what happened was. See, what happened was, Maude was dating, and Walter was drinking. That was how it worked. Yes. And Maude ended up having a date with
Henry
Van Johnson,
as played by Van Johnson,
who was playing Henry.
Not Red Skelton.
I'm never going to live that one down.
No, I won't let you.
I know you won't. So,
yes.
So Henry is going on and on about, and he called her little lady.
Little lady.
That bothered me so much. I'm like, you cannot call someone like Maude
a little lady.
Little lady.
No.
So, just Maude is exhausted. The date started at 6:30. It was only
because Henry had to get like the chow mein.
Yeah.
From the before 7 o'clock special.
Yes, it was the before 7 special.
Before 7 special, and Maude's had a bad day. And he asked her, "Oh, you?" She wants to get rid of him, and he's like asking her, "Do you have a headache? It's been a bad day. Humphreys lost the election."
There was a lot going on in Maude's world that just was not working out for her.
Yes.
And she also missed Walter. It was apparent.
Yeah.
And
Henry is telling her, that he could, he wants
all of her problems.
Yeah, he's got money. He sells the storm windows, and he has his business. And she was like,
"You want me to be your accountant?
Yeah, you want me to be your accountant
because he's going over all these things. He's saying, "Oh, I have the shop. I have this. I have these investments. I have a $100,000 life insurance policy." Like going over all of these financial intricacies about himself.
The only thing they need to determine is where they'll live. So he wants to know how her plumbing is.
Her plumbing is fine.
Yes, her plumbing is fine. And she turns him down. She's going to become a nun.
She's going to become a monk in a monastery. As a matter of fact, I think I have that written down.
Was it a nun or a monk?
I'm going to become a female monk in a monastery.
A female monk. Well, nun, female monk.
Female monk in a monastery.
Same thing. And then she's pushing him out the door. Trying to get him out the door.
And he's like, all like smiles, saying, "Oh, little lady, I'll see you soon. Call me." Handing her his business card,
and it's like crushing the door on his hand.
Crushes the door in his hand.
Poor Van Johnson.
Poor Van Johnson.
So then she gets him out. She's pouring herself a drink, and that's when Carol comes in.
Carol enters
in that
beautiful wig. And she was also in a very schoolgirlish outfit, very short skirt, form fit. But again, that was. The costume department was told to take very much advantage of Adrienne Barbeau's figure.
Oh, well, you can't blame them.
It's true. They were there.
So she wants to know about the date, and Maude says that, she crushed him in the door, but his teeth were still talking.
He was all smile and all teeth.
Yes, and Carol, of course, brings up Walter, because she can tell Maude is miserable. She's not eating. She's not sleeping. And then it goes.
She hopes she. As a matter of fact, Maude says before we go to the next scene is, with any luck, he's as miserable as I am.
Right.
And she starts to cry.
Right.
And then we go to
that bar, which we've seen. We saw
the bar. The bar is frequent. The bar is a frequent flyer.
Did we see that one previously in? Was it Doctor?
I believe so.
I think so.
Whatever bar we see is the same one that Walter and Arthur end up in.
Right.
And even after Walter's sobriety and whatnot, he still goes to the bar with Arthur just because it's a fun place to hang out. And he usually orders like a ginger ale or milk or some such
something. Yeah.
So
Walter tells Arthur he's drinking alone, and Arthur's like, "Oh, well,
okay, I'll join you.
Great, I'll join you. You can drink alone with me."
And we find out that Walter really was and has been as miserable as Maude, because he ended up saying
he had one date, and the girl was talking about Jefferson Airplane.
Yes.
And I don't remember what he said.
I don't remember what he said.
Something having to do with aviation. That And we find out that Arthur is the one that introduced Maude and Walter to each other. But he's also like, he knew it wouldn't work out. I don't know how he knew that. And of course he's telling Walter he needs female diversion.
Well, I think there are times I think that writers made Arthur say these things because they just wanted Arthur to really come off as this idiot.
Yeah.
Like he's an idiot savant. He's a doctor, but he's still a fool.
Exactly. Not far from the truth. And he's
Walter fell asleep in his chair watching Mae West movies, because that's what you do when you're depressed. You watch old Mae West movies.
You drink and you watch.
Mae West
movies.
I think that was an allegory for them saying that he was masturbating and just trying to get himself off.
Could be.
They mentioned Mae West, I think, like one or two more times in the show in a similar fashion. Mm-hmm. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. There was always a rumor that Mae West was really a drag queen.
A drag queen, yeah. That actually happened when she came back. When she made her comeback. So, history lesson.
Yes.
Mae West was pretty much kicked out of Hollywood right before the 1940s. Mm-hmm. Like her last picture, I think, was in 38. It was either 38 or 40. Mm-hmm. And it was a big flop, and she ended up taking her shows back to Broadway. Mm-hmm. So she went to Broadway, and Broadway was like, you're sort of like box office poison. So she ends up going across the pond.
Oh, that's right.
So she goes to the UK, and she has this big career on stage. Mm-hmm. She brought Catherine Was Great. She brought, I think, Sex back. She did Diamond Lil. She brought back all of these shows and whatnot, and then she got to Vegas. Mm-hmm. where she put on her big one-woman show where she was surrounded by all of these gorgeous men. We can definitely address that later, but when she came back to Hollywood, like, she had already, I think she was in Mr. Ed. She was in an episode of Mr. Ed.
Oh, I don't even remember that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, like, what other shows she guest starred in. But she tried coming back into vogue when she was in her 60s, and then when she came into her 70s, people noticed that her face started to change. She was getting old.
Right, of course.
She was, I think, in her 80s in the 70s. I think so.
Could be.
So, when, like, when she did Sextet, and she did, I think that one other, she did, what the hell is the name of the movie? Oh, it had Raquel Welch.
Myra Breckinridge.
Myra Breckinridge. She did Myra Breckinridge. She got great notices, but people noticed that this wasn't the same Mae West that they fell in love with in the 30s.
Well, how could she be?
She was in her 70s.
Right.
She was pushing 80 for I think she passed in 79.
Yeah,
I think she was 80. She was 87 or 88 at the time.
Yeah,
she went right up until the end.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of people that were like asking for the autopsy report. Like, does she have a penis?
Right.
Like,
I know.
I can't.
I know.
I can't. Anyway, back on the phone.
We digress.
So
of course Arthur is complimenting Walter because he feels that, you know, Walter is a ladies' man, where Arthur really isn't.
They have this weird bro conversation where they go back and forth about who's the bigger ladies' man.
Right.
And, like, Walter is saying, no, Arthur, you're the bigger ladies' man. Like, you can... Just, again, very bro talk.
Yes.
Very, very bro talk.
Yes.
I was in and out of consciousness during that conversation.
Yeah.
But...
It's like in the movies I watch where that happens, the two guys usually end up having sex.
We love that.
We do.
One of the funnier lines that Walter said was, Maytag dealers are second only to Paul Newman.
Right.
First is Whirlpool dealers.
Yes, Whirlpool dealers are first.
That was cute. Cute.
So Arthur is still going on about, they need female companionship, and that's when Walter gives him his little black book.
Black book?
Yes.
I would never give any of my friends my little black book.
Do you have a little black book?
I do.
You really do?
I do.
Oh my goodness.
It's not in my purse. I keep it next to my nightstand. For no good reason.
I didn't think young people would keep a little black book.
Of course we
I figure it's all in the phone.
No.
Isn't it all in the phone?
No, absolutely not. I need to keep something private. I do. I have a contact list.
You have to know how to keep that, away from prying eyes.
That's why it's a book. No one in my house reads. It's one of the things that I love about my family is that they can't read.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We're going to hell for that.
God will get me for that is what he will do.
And of course Arthur's last line is as he's looking through the book is,
"Who's Barbara?"
We never do find that out
who Barbara is.
We never do find it out.
We never do find out who Barbara is. So Walter ends up going back to Maude's house, and Maude is like sitting down, kind of bereft, and I think she's still continuing talking to Carol.
I don't think
Carol went up to bed.
I think she was already upstairs at that point.
So Walter rings the doorbell, and Maude goes, "If that's Henry, I'm going to kill him." If that's Henry with his storm door, because before Henry left, he's like, "I'm going to give you a free door. I'm going to give you a free storm door free of charge."
Right.
And that was when she slammed the door in his hand. But Walter comes back, Maude goes to the door, and Walter has his jackets with him.
Right. One jacket.
One
suit, actually.
One suit, that's what it is, one suit.
And he has, I don't know what it was, a book or something.
Something to that effect.
Photo album, I'm not sure what, but...
So...
He's moving in.
And Maude is elated.
Right.
Maude is so happy because finally this was the compromise that she wanted. She didn't want the marriage, but she wanted the partner.
And this even makes up for Humphrey losing.
It even makes up for Humphrey losing the election.
Yes.
So, again, Maude is just overcome with joy.
She's like speechless at one point, which is very unusual for Maude.
It's very unusual for the both of us today. The God's gracious truth.
That's for sure.
But
the caveat is
there is a catch.
Because she's going to put the suit away, and tells him to go get the rest of the stuff
Get the rest
out
of
of
the
the
stuff out of his car.
And that's when he tells her.
He says, "Oh no, don't worry about it. We'll keep a couple of things here, and I'll keep the rest at my apartment."
Mm-hmm.
And that triggered Maude.
There she goes again.
That triggered Maude because
Yes.
Maude was like, "But you're moving in here. This is your house as much as it is mine." And Walter's like, "No, this is your house. What if we have?" I think he said a Pier 6 fight.
Some sort of
Some
fight.
sort of fight.
Some sort of fight.
Like a really big fight.
Big
and
fight.
he's what is he going to do?
Right, because if she kicks him out, then where does he go?
He even says, "Am I going to stay at the Y
The
for a
Y.
night?"
Right.
And like Maude just trying to explain, trying to like go over everything, and Walter's just not having any of it.
Right.
So I think Walter says something to, "Would you be?" Yes, Maude is like clinging to his jacket, like, "No, you're not leaving, not like this. I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to go." And Walter says, "No, you're going to wrinkle my jacket." She goes,
that's a $200
jacket, $200
Yes.
suit. Maude's like, "I'll fix it. I'll iron it. Don't worry about it." And Walter just comes back at Maude, and Maude blows up. "Here's what I think of your $200 suit." Throws it on the ground.
Yes.
And
that's what he says. It's only a $50 suit. You think I'd leave a $200 suit here?
Walter wasn't stupid.
And there was also a remark about how they only lived together for 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. So they end up having what I like to call their talking over each other fights.
Yes.
And that's usually what leads to Walter saying Maude sit, or Maude stand, or Maude kitchen, or Maude whatever.
In this case, it was Maude coat.
Maude coat, exactly. Because Walter has had enough. He knows that he has Maude. Maude knows that she has Walter. And they decide to go to a justice of the peace pretty late at night.
But Walter made the decision that they're going to the justice of the peace. They're getting married. That's it.
And that was the end of it.
And well, no, because Maude starts crying.
Yeah, Maude starts crying as she's holding onto her coat.
And he's like,
what are you crying for? What's the matter? And she says, as a matter of fact, I have it written down. "Proposal is a very romantic moment for a girl."
Right. And all he did was say Maude coat.
Yes.
But that was romantic enough.
That was romantic enough because
her.
Maude knew exactly what was going to happen.
Right. Exactly.
And then we fade to black, and we open back up to present day.
Present day,
to
1972.
1972.
Still watching the
election. Arthur, Maude, and Walter
on the couch as we go from left to right.
And in discussing all of these things that the two have gone through, Maude and Walter are feeling relatively amorous.
Yes.
They're feeling romantic. And Maude and Walter suggest to themselves, "Hey,
Walter makes a suggestion.
Walter makes a suggestion.
They go watch the elections upstairs in the bedroom.
To which Arthur says, "Yeah, sure, that's fine. You guys can go upstairs. I'll stay down here."
No, wasn't it something more like, oh no, that's okay. This is fine, or I don't remember.
Something to that effect that makes Arthur look like an even bigger idiot than he already is.
It's like, hello. It's like when you're on a date or something, and there's like a third person there, and it's like
third wheel in it. Third wheel in it.
Can you go home now?
I've had that happen to me once or twice.
I'm sure. I mean, everybody's
I've
had
definitely had that happen to me once or twice. Where I think a friend of mine was being amorous with her husband, and I was like looking around, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna go.
Okay,
now.
well, I'm just gonna back up slowly.
Just gonna cramp, walk right out the door.
Yeah. Hello.
So that's how the episode ends.
Yes.
Really, just... I love how Norman Lear was able to pack so much
into one
episode.
Yeah, 26 minutes, right?
Only 26 minutes.
That's the running time when you edit out all the
commercials. And sometimes what will happen with some of these episodes is there will be pretty significant portions cut out of it. But that's just what happens when they try to put it back into syndication. They edit it because commercials cost more money than the shows do.
Yeah.
So, some news.
Yes.
I had reached out. I did. I reached out to an app called Tubi.
Tubi.
Tubi. And what Tubi is, it's a lot like Netflix and Hulu, but it's free of charge. And it has some older stuff on it. It has some new, it has, I think, like the first season of the Friars Club roasts. It has some stuff that I'm like really, really, really interested in. Like most of George Carlin's specials, whom I absolutely adore. And I reached out to them to potentially get Maude onto Tubi.
That's
because
right.
Tubi does have a lot of Shout Factory
shows.
Mm-hmm. And Maude, as we've mentioned in every episode, is that Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
Shout Factory.
So I am hoping, because one of the things that happens is a lot of the people that watch our show will say, well, where can we watch Maude?
Yeah, they want to
know where it is. They want to see where Maude is.
We can't show it to you.
We can't show it to you because the powers that be will say, hey, yeah, no.
Our lawyers say,
yeah,
you better not do that.
Correct.
To which we say, okay.
Okay, we won't. We'll play ball.
Yeah.
We'll play balls, Daddy.
Yes.
We'll play balls, Daddy. It's fine.
Yes.
So I reached out to them hoping that they can get Maude onto their application. And if they can, you can watch Maude on Tubi.
Yes. And of course, if that does happen, we will be the first ones.
We will be the first ones to tell you.
To tell you.
And if you would like to hear more, I got it right this time.
Yes,
if you would like to hear more, you can find us on God'll Get You For That, Walter, on our Facebook page.
Yes.
You can find us on Instagram at Findley's Friendly Appliances.
Yes.
My name is Tomcat, and you can find me on all forms of social media at ThatTomcat and ThatTomcat.com. And if you would like to follow this gorgeous hunk of man...
Oh, come on.
I won't. You can find them at...
Well, of course, on Facebook, it's Toni Homeperm, and that's Tony with an I. And of course, you can also follow me at my website, TonyHomeperm.com. And they can always email us at
Findley's Friendly Appliances at gmail.com.
Yes. So there is no reason not to.
There's no reason not to contact us.
Contact us.
Hit us up. Talk to us.
You know, of course.
We would love to give you a shout out on here. As a matter of fact, we got a beautiful shout out on
my friends who Brandon and Jeff, who do the That Does Suit Madam podcast, which is a show all about one of my favorite shows, Are You Being Served? Yes, we want to thank Jeff and Brandon.
We want to thank them for the shout out. We're shouting you out now. We're shouting you out.
We're shouting them back out.
Yes, we are. So, thank you for listening, and we will see you on another episode of God'll Get You For That, Walter.
Yes, he will.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.